Infection control. There are many diseases known to humankind. Until this day, there are still diseases being discovered. Diseases are introduced when there is an absence of health that is caused by microorganisms, which then grows in or on a host by pathogenic organisms. These pathogenic organisms multiply, which cause obstruction in the host, resulting in tissue damage, and secrete organic exotoxins, causing the host to have high body temperature, nausea, vomiting, and shock. Types of pathogens. Bacteria is a microscopic single celled organism that consists of prokaryotes that lack nucleus and membrane organelles. It inhabits the host as a colony. The morphology of the appearance is spheres, rods, and spirals. They produce endospores that allows it to be resistant to the chemical and physical agents inside the host body. Viruses obligate intracellular parasites. They cannot survive on their own. It carries its own genetic information called capsid that surrounds the viral DNA and RNA. Viron attaches to a host cell and inserts its genome or genetic information. The viral genome redirects the host cell, causing the host cell to produce new viruses. Fungi, larger bacteria that are eukaryotic organisms with a nucleus and membrane bound organelle, are microscopic mushroom and puffballs, microscopic yeast and molds. Diseases caused by fungi are superficial infection, discoloration of the skin, cutaneous infection, keratinized tissue of hair, nail, and skin, subcutaneous fungal infection, infection that enters the human host causing trauma to the skin, and systemic infection, infection that enters the circulatory and lymphatic system that can be fatal to the host. Protozoan parasites are unicellular organisms which are not characterized as animals or plants, but that are motile organisms and eukaryotic that are able to ingest food particles, classified according to their motility, slow cellular flowing, long flagellum protein tail, action of numerous short protein tails, and can form into a cyst to survive when they are no longer within a host. Establishment of infectious disease. In an encounter, the infectious organism comes in contact with the host, but this process varies depending on the encounter between the host and the microorganism, since every body and every microbe responds differently. Throughout one's lifespan, the body is exposed to different organisms. Some are eliminated and others colonize the host. In entry, when the infectious microbe enters the host by ingression or penetration, an example of integration will be when a person inhales or breathes contaminated dust particles, which can then colonize the lower respiratory tract and cause pneumonia. An example of penetration will be when a mosquito or flea bites into one's skin and can transmit a disease in the host. In spread, if the host immune system is low, then the microbes will be able to spread throughout the body, which then leads to multiplication. When the microbes start to multiply, which is called the incubation period. In damage, it can be direct or indirect towards the host. Direct damage can cause cell death by toxins or poisons created by infectious agents. Indirect damage can change the metabolism of the host, resulting in life threatening diseases or death. For the outcome, the host can eliminate the infectious agent can overcome and take over the host, or both the host and infectious agent can balance out and live in an anxious state of symbiosis. Chain of infection. It starts off with the host. It can be an elderly, an infant, anyone with their immune system low, or just anyone, which is caused by the pathogens such as bacteria, virus, fungi, or parasite. The reservoir are from people, animals, soil, food, or water. Port of exit can be from coughing, sneezing, bodily secretions, and feces. Mode of transmission, direct contact, can be from person to person. Indirect contact can occur through a mosquito or contaminated water, food. Vector, meaning mosquitoes, fleas, and ticks. And port of entry from the mouth, nose, eyes, and cuts in the skin. Healthcare associated infections. Nosocomial infections are acquired in the hospital setting where most of the people are sick. The place can have certain areas that are contaminated, like the seats, beds, and doors. Allergenic infection are acquired through the care of a practitioner when the healthcare practitioner can give the wrong order of prescriptions or perform the wrong procedure. Compromised patients are those with the weak immune system, and blood-borne pathogens such as hepatitis B virus, human immunodeficiency virus, hepatitis C, D, and syphilis. Environmental control. Asepsis, sterilization and disinfection by surgical asepsis and medical asepsis. Surgical asepsis is a way to prevent contamination before, during, and after surgery using sterile technique. Medical asepsis, reducing the quantity of infectious agents and decreasing the chances of infection. Hand washing is an important routine used in order to not spread infection. Must be performed before, during, and after attending a patient. These steps are wet hands thoroughly with water, apply soap, rub hands together in a rotary motion, rinse and allow water to run down over the hands, dry hands from elbow to wrist. Standard precautions are hand washing, personal protective equipment such as gloves, fluid repellent gowns, face mask, protective eyewear, and resuscitation mask and bags. Transmission-based precautions are airborne precautions, pathogenic organisms that is released and stays in the air for a long period of time in droplets or dust. Droplet precautions, large droplets from patient coughing, sneezing, or talking. And contact precautions, direct contact with patient or indirect contact with a contaminated object. Handling and disposing toxic or hazardous material. Every healthcare setting may have a different protocol into where you will throw different types of waste in different areas. While handling any of these wastes, one must always ensure that they are wearing gloves and, in many cases, wearing a gown, safety goggles, mask, and a face shield. An example of this will be after a procedure of barium enema. After the exam is done, contrast and the barium enema tip will be taken out of the patient but cannot be placed where almost anyone can be exposed to. Depending on the protocol, instead of placing that waste in the trash can, it will be placed in a different area where only contaminated waste can be placed and handled from someone who is trained with hazardous material. In conclusion, infection control must be a top priority for everyone who enters the medical field to know. Knowing what can cause a disease, an infection, the outcome, symptoms, or the whole process from the beginning to end. How to protect and take care of themselves using personal protective equipment, washing their hands thoroughly, and knowing where to place hazardous waste. Not only will they care for their safety, but for those around them and those coming in for our help. Thank you for watching.